All right. I think we're ready to go. Alastair, thanks for coming on, man. As I was saying to you before we started, your YouTube video got suggested to me in the YouTube algorithm on your 3,000 meter peaks in a month. And then since then, I've probably watched it a couple of times, 2 or 3 times at least. And yeah, I thought, why not reach out to you, see if you want to come on the pod. And here we are, man. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to be here talking to you on this podcast.
Cool, man. Thanks. I would love to obviously talk to you about the 3,000 meter peaks and all the other stuff
Mm.
you've done since then too, like the GODZone, how you just finished that up. But where I thought kind of makes sense to start is painting a bit of a picture on your background in mountaineering and I guess even adventure racing as well. And in that video, we get some glimpses into it. So I understand it. Maybe I'll do a high level when you maybe do a bit more of a detailed level view where you joined the tramping club in uni, right? Which you then progressed into your mountaineering, big wall climbing, and then not so long after that, you ended up traveling the world, going climbing and mountaineering in all these really cool places like Yosemite and Patagonia and Chamonix. So, could you maybe zoom in on that a little bit more and give us some detail into what it was like when you first started into these kind of outdoor pursuits that you do?
Yeah, I started outdoor adventures probably in year 10 at high school. I joined the Duke of Edinburgh program, which I'd highly recommend to any young person out there. You have to do an expedition, skill, service, and a sport. And so that got me into tramping from age 14. And then after that, it would have been university, getting into mountaineering through the Auckland Uni Tramping Club, and then from there joined the New Zealand Alpine team, and that took me to some of these expedition locations. Like first it was Peru, and then in 2016, and then Yosemite, Canada, Europe, and so on.
Hmm. And how was that progression from like? There's a big difference between tramping and staying in a dock hut or something, and climbing a vertical face at 3,000 meters. So, what was that skill gap like for you between just going for a nice walk in the bush and actually being able to climb the mountains?
Yeah, well, I started off, did a lot of bush tramping to begin with in my teenage years, and um, and mountaineering is really just a progression of that. You're tramping at first on just it's all foot contact, so you're just strapping crampons onto your tramping boots essentially, and walking up a mountain like Ruapehu, and then the next year it might be Narahoe and Tongariro, and then the following year you might decide I'm ready for Taranaki, and you're getting steeper and steeper, and eventually the ground comes up to meet you, and you have to plant your hands in the ice, and then you're feeling a little unstable. You know, you're looking down Taranaki, you're seeing 1,000 meters of smooth ice surface below you, and think, oh, maybe I should. People start talking about ropes and snow stakes and stuff like that, abseiling. So at that point, you sort of have to go sideways and go into the rock climbing world, because it's pretty hard to learn how to belay someone or do an abseil when you're covered in ice and it's
Hmm.
freezing cold. So you do it in a controlled environment like a rock climbing crag. For me, that was the Auckland Grammar Quarry. So you go on an abseiling course, learn how to use prussiks and so on, and then you take that to the next level. You learn sport climbing. So for me, that was sort of Mungaweka Crag and Frogger. You know, I grew up in the North Island,
Hmm.
and then you apply all those rock climbing skills in the alpine environment, and that looks like belaying off a snow stake and making an anchor off whatever you can find. Simple protection. But then as it gets steeper, then you've got more ice available. So then you're placing ice screws, and eventually you're doing big multi-pitch climbs. So the biggest one for me, my early days would have been the south face of Araki Mount Cook, White Dreams route, sort of a grade 5 ice climbing route, about 10 or more pitches. So you're walking for 10 hours to the base of the West Ridge, Mount Cook, and then bivvying there, and then you're walking up to the steep part, and then you're ice climbing up to maybe WI3, which is 60, 70-degree ice, placing lots of ice screws, maybe some snow stakes, some rock protection, and then climbing all the way up to the low peak. We slept in the middle peak of, it's called, what's it called? Middle Peak Hotel.
Oh yeah, sounds
It's like an
luxurious.
ice cave right up there, right at the
Yeah.
summit. It's since melted back. You can't. It's not as much of a sheltered spot in there anymore.
Mm.
We slept at the top of Mount Cook after about a 20-hour day, and then did the Grand Traverse the next day. That was about 10 years ago. So that's sort of the progression, what that looks like from tramping in the bush to tackling
Yeah.
steep icy peaks.
You stepped that out quite well. It sounds so simple and linear too.
No, no, it takes a lot of years.
Definitely wasn't that. Yeah. What was it like doing that first one on Mount Cook?
Well, the year before I had climbed the Linda Glacier route, so that's the easiest route on Mount Cook from the east side, staying in Plateau Hut, and we walked in there, had a few rest days at Plateau Hut, and then went up the Linda Glacier route. So even on a mountain like Mount Cook, you've got to take it step by step. 1 year, start with the easy route, and then add layers. So that was the following year doing the south face. So we already knew the descent. So you can't just add too much all at once. You've got to start nailing the basics. So getting this descent route. So then when you're doing the south face and a grand traverse, you get to the high peak and you're into familiar territory rather than still facing really unknown descent ahead of you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it was definitely intimidating still.
Yeah. And the opportunity to go overseas, that's a pretty crazy opportunity to be able to go and like climb these peaks all around the world. How did that come about, and how did that compare to your time climbing in New Zealand? I'm assuming it must have been a step up in a lot of ways, but yeah, how did that come about, and what was it actually like in practice?
Well, the big opportunity came through this New Zealand Expedition Climbers Club, which is the club formed by people running the New Zealand Alpine team and running the Remarkables Ice Mix Festival. So they had growing this fund. As if you go to the Remarkables Ice Mix Festival, which happens every year in August in Queenstown, your participation in this event funds this expedition grant, and there's an expedition every year. And in 2016, it was a trip to Peru, to the Cordillera Blanca, which is near Huaraz. So there's a lot of 6,000 meter peaks there.
Mm-hmm.
And that really got me excited because, third world country, completely different culture, and high altitude. My first taste of high altitude, going to that 6,000 meters. And so I joined that expedition and found a partner. And I was one of the only people sort of on the outside of that group at the time. But it was an amazing trip with about 10 or 15 Kiwis and Aussies going over. We had a shared base camp set up, first of all in the Paron Valley, and second in the Santa Cruz Valley. And it started off with I climbed this granite peak called Sphinx, which is the Sphinx.
Mm-hmm.
That was amazing. 2 days on this granite face.
So is
climbing.
that like actually rock climbing it?
Yeah, it was actually warm. Yeah, the summit's
Yeah.
around 5,300, but you're very near the equator. So even though it's high altitude, it's sort of moderate temperatures, similar to New Zealand alpine, just several thousand meters higher. And by the end of the trip, I was lucky enough to climb Tairahu with Rose Pearson, which was a 5-day climb. Reached the summit on day 4, running out of food. So that was pretty exciting. It was a long west ridge of this beautiful mountain. It's like a cathedral, all these buttresses coming down. But we climbed the west ridge, and it's all this Peruvian snow either side and snow mushrooms and granite rock and weave our way around the ridge, just going up, across, down, across, back up, maybe an abseil. And it took us 4 days to get up there.
Oh, that's epic. And it obviously wasn't the plan to run out of food. Did you run
It took
behind
a little longer
schedule?
than took an extra day, but yeah, it's amazing. We had all of our stuff in a 40-liter pack. I don't know how we fit it in there, but
40-liter pack. I'll do like the Abel Tasman with like a 70-liter pack in it.
yeah, yeah. We had one sleeping bag between two of us and
Oh,
a
yeah,
small
nice.
tent, and we didn't have huge down jackets, but
Mhm.
we had enough stuff. But yeah, some weather came in on the fourth night, and it started to snow. So in hindsight, we realized we were quite vulnerable up there. But actually, as Rose and I neared the summit, others in our team actually caught up to us. They were experienced and fast climbers, and they actually caught up to us and just overtook us just below the summit. It's a bit annoying.
Oh,
They
yeah.
beat us to it. But then we sort of teamed up as a four and went down together.
Yeah. Did you find How did you find that adjustment to that kind of altitude? I'm just thinking we went to Chamonix last year and we caught the gondola up and that goes up to whatever, like 4,000. And I remember getting off that, walking up a flight of stairs and being like absolutely gassed out at the top of that flight of stairs. I assume your altitude stuff, like your alpine stuff in New Zealand, must have somewhat prepared you. But did you feel it when you got there, going up to like 4 or 5,000 meters?
Yeah, with I know the chairlift you're talking about in Chamonix goes from 1,000 meters in the village to 3,800.
Mm-hmm.
And so
That's the one.
altitude acclimatization is all about sort of rate of change. So if you
Mm-hmm.
jump almost 3,000 meters in an hour, you're going to feel like you've been hit by a steam train.
Yeah.
But when you go to Peru, you take a flight to Lima, an overnight bus to Huaraz, and then straight away you're at 3,000. And then you're spending a lot of time at 3,000. Maybe the first day you walk up to 38, come back down. The next day you might go up to a lake, 4,200, come back down. Maybe a rest day. It might take you a week before you go to 5,000. But this whole time you've sort of been getting used to 3,000.
True.
Then after, so you've gone to 5,000, then you come back down, and then you go to a base camp at 4,500, and that becomes your new norm. And then you're going from 45 up to 5, 5.2, back to 45, 5.3, back to 45. Then maybe you might push up to 6,000 after about 10 or 12 days. So it's a staggered approach with altitude. If you went straight to 5,000 meters, you'd be very altitude sick straight away.
Probably pass out.
The other thing with altitude is you can go up to 3,000 meters in the Alps, and then 2 weeks later you'll have lost all of that benefit.
Is
So
that
it's
how
not
quick
like
your body adapts? Yeah.
yeah, you sort of lose the acclimatization. You have to go
Mm-hmm.
there regularly.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't really pre-acclimatize in New Zealand for those altitudes. You can get an altitude tent, which is I've tried that once. It's hard work.
Yeah.
It's better to
Is it-
just spend an extra week in the country.
Yeah, that sounds more enjoyable too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your big wall climbing in Yosemite, what did you do there? And well, I guess maybe what took you there and then what walls did you climb when you were there? We did a trip there in 2017.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yosemite. Let me think. The first time I went there was 2017. I spent the winter in Canada in Canmore ice climbing, and when you're in that sort of climbing circuit up in North America, it's a bit of a seasonal loop that everyone does. You know, it's the winter and doing the ice climbing, and then as the season warms up, if you're into climbing, you'd want to go down to Yosemite for the big walls. So I got a job first of all in British Columbia prawn fishing, and that saved me some money
Yeah. Nice.
after 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But by the time I got to Yosemite, it was mid June, late June, so it was a little too hot. But we went anyway. My friend Gemma and I went to Yosemite, sort of van lifing, And of course, we wanted to climb the famous walls. We started
Yeah.
with Half Dome, Northwest Face.
Sick.
You're probably familiar with Alex Honnold with that photo on the walking along, facing out.
Yeah.
So we did that, except we didn't walk across. It's actually very narrow. It's like this catwalk.
Yeah.
So I was actually
Bit too
putting my
sketchy.
hands in that crack and traversing along.
Yeah.
Couldn't say.
I've watched his like documentary a couple times. It's free solo, and I'm still like scared for him the whole time I'm watching that. Even though
yeah.
you know he survives it, he is like that's another level.
Well, even when we were back there, the first trip, we had to constantly remind ourselves, we are not Alex Honnold, we are not Tommy Caldwell. We have
Yeah.
we're climbing 510s here. We're not free solo.
I'm not gonna free solo El Cap for you there.
No, but we climbed the Half Dome over 2 days and managed to emerge on the summit of Half Dome. There's hundreds of hikers up there.
Yeah.
They gave us some food. That was cool.
So cool, man.
And later on, we climbed the nose over 3.5 days. So big wall style, and got very dehydrated, but that was amazing, especially doing that king swing.
So did you camp on the wall too? Did you do it like that?
Yeah.
Whether you set up like a ledge? Oh, so you did that too?
Yeah, what you do is the first day you climb the first 4 pitches of up to this ledge, hauling your gear up. No, you just free climb it up there, and then you fix 3 ropes down to the base, and then you haul your gear straight up. At least I'm trying to remember. I think that's the way we did it.
Yeah.
No, maybe we did haul our bags up, and then we just that's right. We hauled our bags up to that ledge, and then we fixed our ropes straight to the ground, so we can leave our bags there, and then you sleep on the ground, and then and then the next day you go for it.
Right.
And first day would have been sleeping on the El Cap spire, which is about 15 pitches up. So I've got a 4 pitch head start, so it's 11 pitches. The second night was on Camp 5, which is the name of this very poor sloping bivvy spot. We're sort of sliding down it all night. You're sleeping harnessed in.
Yeah.
So it looks scary, but you're attached in your harness, you're tethered to the wall. Nothing can happen there. And then the final day top out.
Man, what is it like sleeping on a wall? Do you actually get much sleep, especially when you're kind of slipping off but not slipping off?
It's like any uncomfortable camping spot. It's a little broken sleep, but you're tired enough so that outweighs it. But the first night, El Cap Spire is amazing.
Is that like an actual ledge? Is that the ledge?
Yeah, it's a nice ledge. Some people carry porta ledges on the nose, but it adds a lot of extra weight. So with the hauling, so what you do is you're climbing with no weight on. You're free climbing normally, but you're dragging a haul line behind you. So you've got your normal climbing rope, which you're placing protection that saves you from falling. And you've got this additional haul rope behind you. So once you finish a pitch, you attach your climbing rope to the anchor, and your seconder Jumars are behind you, taking out the protection and Jumaring up to you. So lead first, Jumar second. And then with the haul rope, that's attached to the haul bag. So you put that through a hauling device, which is like a ratchet, and you pull up your bag essentially on the second rope.
And that's got like all your food and all your stuff. And
for
that night or 2 nights.
4 liters of water per person per day, all your food, camping equipment, extra gear. So you haul that up while your friend is Jumaring up. And to haul it up, you attach your Jumar to the other side as your counterbalance, hauling it up. So as soon as it gets too heavy, then you can't do a simple 1-to-1 haul with your body weight and just leaning back. So that's why you want to still keep the weight down if you can. Because once it becomes too hard to do a 1-to-1, you have to go to a 3-to-1, and that requires a lot more setup and time.
Yeah. Man, even like camping, even just like backcountry camping can be complicated enough with the gear and stuff you need to take, let alone actually having to like haul it up. Like we went camping, we've gone camping a couple of times over in the Waited Upper, and I feel like we load the vehicle up with so much
Oh
probably
yeah.
crap to be honest, but having to keep it down and then also having to haul it up a wall, the I don't know, the planning and the logistics involved in that. You must have to have it pretty dialed.
It forces you to cut out anything that's not necessary.
Hmm.
That's true. When you go on a road trip, you can carry so much stuff, you end up with more stuff than you need.
Yeah, way too much. Yeah. And when did this idea for the 3,000 meter peaks in a month come about? Had you done maybe before that? Had you done something similar before where it's that expedition style? You're dedicating a 2-3 week or a month long period to something before coming up with the 3,000 meter peaks idea, or was it kind of the first style like that you'd done?
Well, that trip came about in the sort of mid late COVID era, so we couldn't go overseas, and we were thinking about how to do expeditions in New Zealand.
Hmm.
And the previous year, 2020, we did an expedition to New Zealand and ski traverse along the Southern Alps, and that's when everyone was saying, "Oh, we can't go overseas. We can't do anything. We're just going to have to wait." But we thought, let's do an expedition to New Zealand and use the same amount of resources that we'd apply to an overseas thing and just do it in New Zealand. And that ski traverse um, in early spring was the first thing. So that was 3 weeks. And we had a great time on that. Me, Rose, Pearson, and Reg measures. But the following year, the idea sort of came about. If you've seen the documentary, it was Penny Webster. She just talked to me at this club night, and she said, "I'm writing a book about the 3,000 meter peaks, and I've got one chapter missing, and I need you to do this thing before I can write the chapter. So I want you to do the 3,000 meter peaks like Ullestedt did the 4,000 meter peaks in Europe." And at first, it's funny because the previous year I was helping Gavin Lang with his 3,000 meter peak project, and he was doing them all individually to write a book.
Hmm.
And at first I thought it's a bit boring doing all the 3,000 meter peaks because most of them are all just right next to each other and they're kind of the same.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be better to do like the classic peaks? But then when Penny sold it to me, I thought all of a sudden linking them up in a continuous circuit rather than one by one, and all of a sudden that was a lot more appealing because it was like a Rogaine, like this puzzle, unsolved puzzle. How would you go if they're all just dots on the map? How would you link them up, and how would you plan the logistics? And what gear would you take, and what season would you go in, and all this sort of problems to figure out. I really enjoy that problem solving preparation process.
Hmm.
And so we ended up coming up with the idea to start on Mount Sefton, sort of entering in from the Copeland Valley, climb Mount Sefton up the West Ridge and back, and then La Perouse would take us into the Hooker Valley, and then from Empress we would do that whole ridge chain from Hicks all the way through to Dampier, Vancouver, Malaspina, along the main divide, Magellan, Silberhorn, Tuckerman, Graham, Tasman, Lindenfeldhast, and that would take us onto the Neves. And then you
Hmm.
can sort of go around the Neves through to Tasman Glacier. And then earlier on we've missed Mount Cook and Mount Dixon. You can't get in there. So we'd come round on the way back and do those at the end. So you can access those much easier from the plateau, Grand Plateau.
Hmm.
So tick those two off near the end. And then Uli Sterk had done all of his with linked all the European peaks up with bikes, so we thought we should do that as well. Carry
Yeah, that was a
good
pretty
style.
epic part at the end. I wasn't expecting you guys to be jumping on a couple of mountain bikes. And how far was the bike? It was a couple hundred Ks, right?
Yeah, it wasn't crazy. It was 280 k's, but we split it over a few days because of the way it worked out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did feel funny stashing our road bikes in the hut at Mount Cook like
Hmm.
2 months earlier, thinking, is there any even point to this? It's pretty unlikely that we'll actually get to use these because we'll probably run out of time. But we
Oh,
thought you've just
true.
got to believe in it,
Yeah.
and sure enough, we got to use them. But it was right down to the wire at the end because we
Hmm.
had some pretty hard commitments at the end.
Yeah.
But we popped out at Bull Road and on it would have been the Friday. No, it was the Saturday. Let me think. No, it was a Friday night, and we biked the first night to Twizel in a tailwind. That was nice,
Oh,
and then
nice.
the next day to Wanaka, 150k. So that took most of the day, and then the next day we biked into a sparring hut and climbed a sparring later that evening, and we got to Colin Todd just before it started to rain, and it rained for the next 5 days.
Man,
So it was right down to the wire.
that is such an epic adventure, man. It'd be cool if we could zoom into each of those parts a little bit more in terms of maybe, I guess, this planning phase and the logistics side of it. How did you determine a route? Like, did you have a big map out and you're hypothetically going through different routes? Are you doing it online, going through? Like, what did that actual planning phase look like in terms of how you're gonna link up each of the peaks?
Well, I think at first I was thinking of it as breaking into sections and doing a few peaks and then coming back. I can't remember at what point I realized you might be able to link them all up. I think it's just in talking to people, the routes sort of evolved, and it did seem, for whatever reason, more natural to do it the way we did.
Hmm.
I'd be interested to see if other people, would repeat it in a different fashion. There was a guy, Nathan Longhurst, who did 100 peaks last summer, which was very impressive using paragliders. And he he did the Mount Cook peaks in a similar kind of order, not exactly the same,
And he did
but
a
he
paraglider, like he used the paraglider, what, off the summit? Or how did that work?
yeah he did amazing stuff with his paraglider, where he'd climb a peak and then paraglide over to the next one, and then just climb the top part or whatever he could do
Yeah.
to use his paraglider to get from one summit to the other.
Whoa, it's crazy.
Yeah, you should invite him on your show.
Yeah, yeah. I'll look him up. And then you got your mate. Was it Hamish? Right, Hamish Fleming.
Yeah.
Is that his name? And what was that process like? Looking for someone to do something like this with, because obviously they need to be fit. They need to have the mountaineering experience. I guess also have the capacity and the time to dedicate a month plus to it. So what was that process like of
Oh,
trying to
it was
find
back
someone?
in May that Penny first proposed the idea, and I can't remember how that came about, but I went straight to him
Hmm.
and asked if he was keen for that, and he said, 100%. Yeah, I just watched the early shtick video the day before, so it was pretty hot in his mind, and he was visiting,
Yeah.
and he got the time off straight away.
Oh wow. Damn, that's good. I thought there might have been this like list of 10 people or something, and you're making your way through them. It was the first one.
No, it was very easy on that front. No, and he was committed from day one. He was an excellent partner.
Mm. And what was it like spending so much time together? Because that must have been a component maybe that you factored in. Like they need to be good at doing the thing, but you guys need to be similar maybe in personality and temperament and willingness to push through when it got difficult. So how did that personality differences maybe factor into it?
Yeah, well, we gelled just very easily, and we had no conflicts throughout the whole month,
Hmm.
which might be seem to be amazing in itself. But
Yeah, yeah.
despite all the stress involved, but no, Hamish was super easygoing. I don't recall a single argument actually,
Well,
or anything like that. No,
mhm.
we spent a lot of time, but yeah, and we didn't see many other people either. But we both knew how to relax at the huts and not annoy the other. Um, no, I think we just both on the same wavelength, and there was sort of a clear distinction on roles in terms of who had different levels of expertise in what, and so we worked quite well together.
Yeah.
I just got to get my charger. Just give me 1 second.
Oh yeah, yeah. Good. And what was the component of having to film that uh, expedition? How did that change it? Maybe before that, what was the idea behind filming it? You know, did you want to create this documentary, and also what was it like with the added component of wanting to achieve this big thing, and also film it in an interesting kind of way too?
Yeah, well, the previous year I'd made a film about the Southern Alps ski traverse that we'd done, and into the New Zealand Mountain Film Festival,
Oh,
and
nice.
that was pretty budget. Um, I'm not using any fancy software or cameras or anything, just a simple GoPro out of my pocket.
Yeah,
Um, and I quite enjoyed that process of going to a film festival and sharing the adventure that way, and trying to step it up in terms of quality a bit. So we thought we'd just do the same the next year. Didn't have any. Well, we were approached by the Protect Our Winters. They wanted to make a film, and so at first we are going to make the film all about climate change, and how the clock's ticking down, and we've got to climb all these peaks now or never, that
yeah.
sort of thing. But in the end, that didn't. It seemed a little contrived to make the film about climate change.
Feels
We
like
just wanted to make the
political
film more
too.
about a just having an adventure
Yeah,
in New Zealand, and not try and apply ulterior sort of things to it.
yeah, that makes sense. What was it like trying to achieve this thing and also film it? Did the filming feel like a bit of a side quest? Were you like, oh shit, we better get a video here? Or were you thinking in advance, you know, well, we'll make sure we film this section of this, and when we get to this hut, we'll film this? Like, how did that planning versus the spontaneity of the filming pan
Well, the
out?
way I do it, I just have a GoPro in my chest pockets. It's very easy to get out, and I didn't find it too hard to film on the go.
Hmm.
Sort of what I would normally do. Done that many times before, so it wasn't. It didn't feel like too hard of a thing to add on. You want to capture the memories for yourself anyway. Turning it into a whole documentary, that was sort of an added layer that came later, because we didn't know if we'd do it or not, so we weren't kind of thinking too far ahead. But once we completed the trip, then my friend Nick Kowalski got in touch with me, and he offered to edit it for free. But we did get some funding from MacPack, and they gave us a little bit of money so we could try and up the quality, and got some aerial footage to slot in there. So that was quite a big project. Took most of the next year to put together.
Yeah, yeah. It is amazing how much effort can go into producing a video. Even something that looks like a low budget kind of vlog can have a lot of
Mm.
effort into it. We're playing around with starting to film our sort of camping trips or trail runs, and the effort that goes into that, and they're not even good videos, is it feels like a lot versus actually making like a full documentary like that. There must be so much time and effort that goes into it.
Yeah, well, fortunately, it was mostly Nick's
Yeah.
effort. So we can all thank Nick Kowalski for that one.
Yeah, nice one, Nick.
But nowadays, everyone's a content creator. I'm sort of falling off the bandwagon a little with that sort of thing. I don't have the time anymore to
Yeah.
spend hours editing videos.
You're just too busy doing the
Um,
doing, eh? Rather
ideally,
than talking about it. Yeah, ideally. Were there any moments on that expedition, the 3,000 meter peaks, where you were sort of questioning whether or not it was doable, whether that's to do with the conditions or the time constraint, or your guide's even ability to be able to complete it. Did you have any moments on that trip where you weren't really too sure if you're going to be able to do it?
Yeah, I think early on we were, wherever we were on the trip, we were writing, okay, we've done this, how much time we've got left, and what sort of order, what's our prediction of our schedule based on what the weather looks like. And then as you move forward, you're starting to get a better picture of how much time you've got. Sort of when you're halfway through, you're seeing, oh, okay, we've got sort of 5 buffer days at the end. We might finish 5 days early, and those buffer days might slot in throughout, so we've got sort of time to spare. But then when the really cruxy point was that Malte Brun, we woke up on the day to climb Malte Brun, and at that point we only got about 4 left, and we realized, the weather was bad. It was quite stormy, and we thought, what happens if we don't climb Malte Brun today? It's going to push us forward a day. We were starting to think, are we going to have to climb Dixon and Mount Cook on the same day and walk out? I think
That's a big shift.
that would have been a bit of a push.
Yeah.
Starting off with Mount Dixon, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night, and then doing Mount Cook straight after.
Damn.
That would have been hard work. But fortunately, we managed to get up Malte Brun later that day and stick with the current plan. And then after that, it was pretty much, it has to go perfectly to plan in order for us to get this done. The final cruxy bit was Mount Aspiring when we were biking to Wanaka, and initially we thought we'll get to the hut, Colin Todd, and then climb the next day because we've got to do a big approach. But then the problem was the next day was raining, so that's when the brainwave came that would do Mount Aspiring that evening. So if we get up Mount Aspiring that evening before it started to rain, then it would be more safe. So it was pretty exciting. Yeah, there wasn't much time to spare.
Yeah. And how do you, like, I can imagine that something like that, there's so many factors going through your mind. It's not just, I want to summit this peak at some stage. It's, I need to summit all of these peaks in this time frame. And you're kind of giving yourself this sense of urgency. How do you balance your risk mitigation, but also wanting to complete this thing in this set amount of time? Did you have many moments where you were like really balancing risk versus getting it completed on time?
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't experience the risk per se until you're up there and you're kind of face to face with it. So, for example, you're in Plateau Hut the day before you want to climb Mount Cook, and you're hearing possible nor'westers up to 65 km an hour the following day. That was the forecast. And you're thinking, okay, that's pretty windy. But we're not taking a risk by setting out the door and going 100 meters, are we? So they said, well, we're still going to commit to it because that's the plan, and we've got to give ourselves a chance. But by stepping out the hut and walking 1 kilometer towards the peak, you're not taking any risk at that point. You've got to think, what's our turnaround point? What's our point at which we have to decide, do we go or not go? And that sort of can happen on the fly, or you can create arbitrary decision points like at the base of the approaching the gun barrels and the Linda Shelf. You can decide, what do we think about the conditions there? Because we haven't put ourselves into too much danger at that point, relatively speaking. So we'll assess the weather when we get at the base of the mountain, and then think, oh, actually, it's not windy at all. It's just that's quite manageable. So we'll go up to the summit rocks, and then we'll decide: is it too windy now? Is it dangerous? No, we're okay. And of course, weather can come in very quickly, but you're sort of assessing all these things in terms of how long you think you'll be up there. Sometimes it goes wrong. You can't completely mitigate that risk, but that is the game that you're playing. Hamish in particular is very good at reading the weather from the sky and having an understanding about what weather systems are over us and what's actually happening at a larger scale. Understanding the wind at different altitudes, and he's trained as a paraglider.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, you have to be quite analytical. You can't just go in blindly chasing down a peak, even though the conditions are telling you it's a no go. Got to be smart, but you also got to be brave and step out, being willing to turn back. And that right there is the challenge of mountaineering.
Yeah. Where does your mind go in those times where you've committed to this thing? Maybe you're quite high up the mountain, the conditions might not be in your favor, but you have to be brave. Where does your mind go there? Does it remain analytical? Do emotions come into it? Where does your mind go when it gets maybe a bit difficult when you're up on a mountain like that?
Mm. Yeah. Well, it it sort of depends on what your motivation is, and you're sort of weighing up what you've got to gain versus what you've got to lose. So for sure, having this sort of list of peaks that you're wanting to tick off can inflate what you feel like you have to gain, and you just have to be level-headed. I don't think that the fact that we had all these peaks to tick off and changed the decision making too much. I mean, obviously, some of them were climbed in worse weather than you would normally do, like Mount Sefton. It was raining and windy, and we got completely soaked on the way
Was that
up.
that one where you left at like 4 p.m. and you started climbing
Yeah,
it? Was that one?
yeah, that
Yeah.
was the first one.
Yeah.
So you could say that's not normal behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, what did Edmund's Hillary say? Nothing venture, nothing win.
That's right.
But
Do you
yeah, it's
think
all got to be weighed up carefully.
yeah.
I don't want to advocate for any recklessness out there.
As a disclaimer. Do you often reflect on what mountaineering has brought to your life and how it's potentially influenced or changed your mindset? Where do you think you would be if you didn't find mountaineering, and what sort of benefit do you think it's brought to your life?
So quite a deep question. I suppose it's less about mountaineering, but more about going on big adventures and pushing yourself physically and mentally with
Mm-hmm.
friends. I think it gives you a lot of confidence when you have a big challenge and then you overcome it. And sort of develops a series of like life principles, mantras, so to speak. Like one of them on that trip was accept and embrace,
That's
and that
cool.
came in relation to the weather.
Yeah.
So, for example, we're sitting in this hut for 3 days, waiting for the weather to get better, and each day you you're going to be inclined to hope or wish or want the weather to do what you want it to do, to clear up. Oh, I hope it clears up. But then you realize that that's fruitless.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to change anything. So it's all about accepting what's the situation around you and then trying to embrace it and working with it, not trying to will it to be something else.
Yeah.
I think those kind of lessons only come about in the natural world. Well, not only, but more powerfully ingrained into you. You learn these lessons in the natural world because in modern society, there's less. You can overpower people with money or all these artificial means, but in the natural world, you're sort of prone to it. You're at the mercy of nature. So it teaches you these natural lessons that you have to wait until the conditions are good and you're sort of weak in the face of it. And you have to work together with nature, not against it. All these sort of things. So I think it does teach you these lessons that you then learn at a deep level and take it into the rest of your life.
Isn't it so interesting how wisdom it's as if it can't be taught by theory, right? Like wisdom, you have to gain it through actually doing the thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I don't know. Someone could say, don't go out in bad weather, or don't get so caught up when the weather isn't good and you can't go out. But that is not the same as being stuck in a hut every day, waking up, looking outside, waiting for the weather to change, and it isn't.
Yeah, exactly right. You've got to learn it yourself through experiences. And then the more experiences you accumulate, that gives you this bank of knowledge and wisdom to tackle harder and harder challenges because you understand what can go wrong and you prepare yourself with mind, body, soul for future challenges.
Mm. Is a big component of achieving these things. Just what you say, mind, body, and soul. There, maybe think about the idea of visualization. So before you're about to set off on summiting a peak or whatever it may be, even a big expedition, are you already going through it in your mind all the time or
Yeah,
frequently?
visualization is huge. You have to think, what am I going to feel like up there in that situation? What kind of equipment will I? Because every day you're deciding what to take or what to eat or make all these decisions. So you have to visualize in the future to help you make the right decisions, or at least to prepare yourself mentally. Okay, I'm going to be up on a ridge for 10 hours today. So that's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's cool, man. Maybe switching it up a little bit to different pursuits of yours is GODZone. I know you recently completed that. Must have been, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, right? In and it was in the Marlborough region this year.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually don't know too much about GODZone. I understand it's like a week plus long multi sport team event where I'm assuming you got to make it to these checkpoints and you're following some map and navigating yourself. And well,
Mm.
that's probably about the extent of my knowledge. So could you give it a little bit of a rundown on what GODZone is, and then I don't know, describe what it was like for you this year?
Yeah, it's GODZone's an expedition length adventure race. So adventure racing is like you're saying, you've got a team of 4 people and you're navigating through a course, and there's usually around 10 stages, 9 to 12 stages of different lengths and disciplines, and you don't actually know what the route is until the day of the event. So you
Wow.
know that it's going to be in Marlborough. So you're preparing yourself for kayaking, sea kayaking, pack rafting, mountain biking, mountain trekking, um, and maybe some other mystery activities like coast steering or abseiling, something like that. So you prepare yourself on those 3 major disciplines: paddling, biking, hiking, but you don't know where you're going until the day of. Then they give you the maps, and you know it's going to be between 5 and 7 days. Um, and you sleep whenever you want. So usually you sleep only a few hours a day, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours a day. That's all part of the strategy. And so when you get the maps, then you can plan your route, and they'll define checkpoints along the way. But sometimes the checkpoints are quite far apart from each other. So there's a lot of interesting route choices that you might make on certain legs. So this year it was starting in Picton, or
Mhm.
started near Picton, with a short sea kayak to an island, hike over an island, and then a pack raft to Havelock, and then an 80-kilometer mountain bike over the, I think, Waikokowhai or something like that track. So into the first night, I started at 4 p.m. So
Damn.
interesting late
Yeah.
starting time. So the
Yeah.
first night you're biking over this pass, pushing your bike over a hill in the rain, and biking all night to the Avon Valley. So we went to an area that not many people would go. It's part of it's private land, There was a 50-kilometer trekking loop through some big, remote, wild mountains, and that took the next 2 days, really, 2 days and a night. And then a went into a 140k bike ride over a big pass, so carrying a mountain bike over a pass, and then a long valley bike through the Molesworth Rainbow stations, and that's another 2 days. And that took us to the Wairoa River. So we packcraft. Oh, we did canyoning there, short canyoning section for a bit of fun, and then paddling down the Wairoa River, hiking over Richmond Ranges, and then packcrafting in the Sounds, and finished with sea kayak back to Picton.
Far out, man. That's that's immense. Yeah. What is the most difficult part about that? Is it just the physical endurance component? Because obviously you have the navigating and all of that kind of stuff, but is it just like the physical endurance and the sleep deprivation? Are those the most difficult parts about that, do you think?
Yeah, physical endurance and sleep. This is definitely a big part. Big part is keeping your team together, the teamwork elements, and sort of managing um, everyone's morale and body. Everyone's suffering different ailments at one point or another. People are feeling sleep deprived at one time or another, and just trying to keep the team spirit, um, keep everyone moving together sort of along this route. So that involves if someone's having a hard time taking more load off them and trying to even up the pace so that everyone's moving together. In our case, one of the teammates, she unfortunately took a tumble on the first mountain bike ride and
Oh
broke her
no.
rib, but she didn't
Oh.
realize it at the time.
Oh.
Um, but she was absolute machine, just kept going and made it through for another few days before finally the bruising was too much, and so she had to tap out. And
Mm.
some other support crew members joined our team. But that's one of the challenges. There's a big challenge this year is managing that and balancing trying to be competitive on one hand, moving through this course versus someone else's safety or health, which is obviously far more important. But if it's just a stubbed toe, you're obviously going to keep going. Or if it's a sore knee, you're going to keep going. So it's not as simple as saying, "Oh, health is most important," because you are trying to achieve this thing. So at what point does the health risks outweigh the negatives? So that's it's challenging. And everyone's trying to put a brave face on because it's a big event, and mentally you don't want to appear weak. You don't want to let yourself down. Don't want to let your teammates down. So you can push yourself maybe harder than you should. There's all these kind of mental gymnastics going on. It's quite
Yeah.
that's the challenging part. The physical as well, but if everyone's going well, then it just becomes a physical exercise. But there's usually some other elements going to go on.
Do you have any kind of go-to strategies or things you draw on when you're going through a tough time like that? So you're 3-4 days in, sleep deprived, and you're trekking up I don't know, a steep hill again, and it's probably not really what you necessarily feel like doing right now. Do you have any strategies or ways of getting yourself through those kind of difficult times?
Well, yeah, you don't really have the mindset of this isn't what I feel like doing because this is what you are doing. So first of all, you have to embrace what the challenge is and put all of your effort into it.
Mm.
Um, but you can definitely be in some dark places like suffering a huge amount of chafage from just the constant movement, or sleep deprivation is a big one. So say it's 3 a.m. and you aren't somewhere where it's possible to sleep. Like for me, that was in the Sounds, trying to paddle and the pitch black with no moon and the sounds, and it's when there's no visual stimulation like that that you're just very hard to stay awake, and you're just flopping all over the place. You try to slap yourself in the face. Or I didn't have any caffeine tablets on hand, but usually that would be the go-to.
Yeah.
But often the answer is some kind of using your team to pull you up. So some kind of laughter, having some jokes and banter. That's usually what helps the most.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it is a case of just let's have a power nap, 20-minute
Yeah.
power nap, and then keep pushing.
Yeah, I guess that added component of it being a team thing too. It's not you pedaling out there by yourself trying to do this thing. It's the added component of all the different people part of the team as well.
Yeah, there's a classic quote which is, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the beauty of the team event. You can push yourself so much further than you would if it was just you.
Yeah. And before we wrap up, do you have any exciting adventures or expeditions planned that you can tell us about? Like what's next on your horizon?
Well, after the Christmas break, which is all about family, after that it will be my wife and I planning a traverse of the Victoria Range, which is a mountain range little travelled between Spring Junction and the Buller River. So that'll be exciting.
So my knowledge of the South Island, isn't that?
Yeah.
Right.
Near
Whereabouts
Murchison.
is that? Oh,
South
okay.
south
Ah,
of
yeah.
Murchison, near Lewis
Yeah,
Pass.
yeah.
And so that will be I'll feel a little bit pioneering
Mm-hmm.
because not many people go there, and we're going to try and sort of establish a route south to north.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a big question mark around that. That'd
Oh,
be
that's
fun.
sick. It's like a proper adventure. I feel like you don't get the opportunity often to do what feels like an uncharted sort of adventure. Eh? You're
Yeah,
always not necessarily on a groomed trail, but you're where people have been before. Like there's not many
yeah.
opportunities you get where maybe no one or at least hardly anyone has been.
I mean, I think it's mostly hunters who go there. And they
Mm-hmm.
might get flown into certain areas. Um, but I feel like these opportunities are out there. You do need to be sort of in the know where to go,
Yeah, yeah.
and have some level of skill to navigate that terrain.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's probably a somewhat significant part of it.
Yeah, yeah. The navigation skill is definitely important. And I'm also preparing for a bike race from the length of South Island called
Oh,
Tour to Waipunamu from north to South Island.
that's
So
sick. Is that
that's going to be
like
pretty
mountain
scary.
bike, cross biking, road cycling?
Um, Bike packing, yeah, hardtail mountain bike.
Ah,
Yeah,
damn. When is that? Is that like
the
later
end of
next year?
January.
Oh, the end of Jan. Oh, really, yeah, next month.
Yeah, about 5 weeks
Cool,
ago.
man. Yeah. Are you gonna document that at all, do you think?
Yeah, that could be an idea, but um,
Yeah. I'd watch it.
there's lots of good videos on YouTube already. People like Joe Nation take great YouTubes. Just watch those.
Yeah, yeah. No, man, I want to see your stuff. That'd be sick. No, that's cool. Wow, those are sick. And that's soon too. That leaves you the whole rest of the year as well to do some more exciting stuff.
Mm.
Yeah. Cool,
After
man.
I recover.
Yeah, yeah. There's that component too, eh? Well, I appreciate your time. I tried to keep us on an hour. I'm sure we probably could have like get into detail even more, but that was cool, man. I enjoyed getting an insight, especially into the 3,000 meter peaks. I just thought that was so cool. I love that idea of an expedition where you're ticking off things in a set time frame. Like summiting
Mm.
one peak is cool, but the idea of a journey almost of sorts, right, over a long
Mm.
period of time, I think is so cool. And yeah,
Yeah,
man,
an enchainment.
keep that. Yeah, that name. I thought that was cool. But yeah, keep doing what you're doing, man. That's honestly like inspiring stuff, and maybe one day I'll do maybe 5% of what you've done, but I'll just watch your video a few more times and then. I'll head out.
No,
That's
I feel like
experience enough, right?
it's all about finding your own challenge out there. And it doesn't.
Mm,
You don't want to compare to anyone else. You just want to find a challenge that inspires you and that challenges you. It's the right sort of difficulty for your skill sets, and that's all you need.
yeah, that's where the adventure is, eh? That's right. Cool, man. Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate it.
so
Oh,
much.
actually, last thing, where can people find you if they want to check you out? I found you on Instagram.
Yeah,
And it's just your name, eh? Alastair McDowell, your name. And then that video I keep referring to, I'll chuck it in the link to this podcast. But it's called Enchainment. I wonder if people just type Enchainment in YouTube, it'd probably
yeah,
come up in your name. Cool. All right. Thanks heaps, man.
no worries.